The Philadelphia Eagles know how to become national headlines, even on the calmest days of the NFL. Sometimes they don't need a press conference. They don't need a big-name insider. All it takes is a rumor, a suggestion, a wild proposal, and suddenly everything shifts. The atmosphere in Philadelphia changes. The city breathes faster. And that is exactly what happened in the last few hours. A piece of news, or better said, an absurdly bold idea, started circulating among analysts, insiders, and major columnists. A proposal that, at first glance, seems so explosive that some fans actually asked if it was real. And yes, it's serious enough that it became a headline everywhere. Because this time, we're not talking about reinforcing the defensive line. We're not talking about a cornerback. We're not talking about a cheap gamble. We're talking about a move that would completely redefine the identity of the Eagles' offense. And that can only mean one thing. If a rumor like this exists, Howie Roseman's name is somewhere in the middle of it. Even in the middle of a dominant season, 7 wins, 2 losses, an aggressive defense, an efficient offense, there's a detail that has been bothering a lot of people. A problem that started small, grew into an irritation, and now feels like an open wound inside the locker room. The atmosphere, for many, feels like it's reaching a breaking point. And it was exactly in that environment that a proposal resurfaced, one that shook the entire city. A massive wide receiver for wide receiver trade, something extremely rare in modern NFL. But to understand the size of this rumor, all you need to do is look at who's on the other side of this possible deal. The Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are living through one of their most frustrating stretches in years. A disorganized offense, a quarterback with no direction, and a roster that simply collapsed. The team bet on 3 quarterbacks last year: Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and J. McCarthy. And unbelievably, they kept the worst one of the 3. Darnold, now an MVP candidate in Seattle. Daniel Jones, playing at a high level in Indianapolis. J. McCarthy, lost, confused, inconsistent, and hurt for half the season. The result is right in front of everyone's eyes. Minnesota went from a 14-win season to a chaotic 4-5 start, sitting at the bottom of their division. And who suffers the most from this collapse? The most talented player on the team. One of the greatest wide receivers of the modern era. A generational athlete carrying a $140 million contract who still has to survive quarterbacks who can't give him the ball consistent. Justin Jefferson, an absolute monster on the field. A name that has stacked records in only 5 seasons. A player whose prime is simply being wasted on a team with no direction. And that's where the rumors connect Minnesota to Philadelphia. According to the proposal that went viral, the Eagles could try something unthinkable. Trade A.J. Brown, plus a first-round pick for Justin Jefferson, or, according to some analysts, convince the Vikings to accept a straight-up, one-for-one superstar swap. Does it sound crazy? Does it sound impossible? Maybe. But there's a lot of logic behind it. First, Jefferson is one of the very few players on Earth capable of replacing A.J. Brown at the same level. Second, Minnesota would save around $24 million in 2026 cap space. Third, the Vikings may already know they're wasting the prime years of the best offensive player on their roster. And now we reach the other side of the story. A.J. Brown. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, period. A fierce competitor, physical, dominant. But lately, the talent has been sharing the spotlight with something else. Frustration. A lot of frustration. Explosive live stream. Public complaints. Controversial comments, and in the most recent, he called the Eagles scene a shit show after a game where he caught only 2 passes for 13 yards. The comment was so heavy that team owner Jeffrey Lurie had to personally come to practice to talk to him. That's not normal. That only happens when something truly worries the top of the organization. And while things explode behind the scenes, the rumors start swirling. Should the Eagles consider moving Brown? Not because of lack of talent, but because of wear and tear. And if they were to do that, there is only one target that makes sense: Justin Jefferson, a player who completely changes the structure of the offense, a weapon who elevates every quarterback he has ever played with, a talent who, at 26 years old, is already on a Hall of Fame trajectory. Now imagine this: Jefferson with Jalen Hurts, Jefferson next to Devonta Smith, Jefferson inside this Philadelphia system. Jefferson competing for championships. It would be one of the most lethal duos in recent NFL history. Of course, for now, this is just a rumor. But in Philadelphia, a rumor is never just a rumor. Where there's smoke, there's usually Howie Roseman holding a gas can. And with tensions rising around A.J. Brown, with Minnesota collapsing, and with Jefferson silently screaming for help on the field, it's no surprise this went viral so quickly. Will it happen? Unlikely, very unlikely, but impossible. Never. Not with Howie Roseman sitting in that chair. If there's one general manager capable of turning an insane rumor into reality, it's him.